Welcome, friends of the internet, to episode 3 of the SmyleCast. I'm very excited. This is the first episode we've had with a guest so far. So this is my buddy Brandon Gugala. Brandon, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit and why you're here and what's going on.
Yeah, you know the name already, I guess. So I'm just a guy living life, I guess,
Yeah, brother.
Wellness coach. I've been in the fitness and, wellness yoga, industry for over 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And that's how you and I met, which was great.
At Citizen Yoga. Yeah.
That was a great time.
Man, that was almost 10 years ago.
It was a
It's
while.
crazy. I think I was 23.
I was 31.
Yeah. How old are you now?
40.
Don't tell everybody. Holy God, he's 40. Looks good for 40.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. Do the yoga.
Yeah, do yoga. Stay in shape. Move the mic a little closer to your face if you can, just because I don't know how it's going to pick up. But I'm so glad you're here, man. This is what an exciting time.
It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be number one. I'm stoked.
Man, yeah.
I love the way this has kind of come together.
It's great, and you're the first one. Painted the walls recently, so it's aquamarine blue, which is my birthstone.
Yeah.
And,
is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Dude.
Yeah. So I was just kind of gravitated towards it, but. Me and Brandon just spent about an hour and a half. I live on the east side of Detroit here, and me and Brandon tried to get his mobile sauna in my driveway. And for those at home, my driveway is maybe, 12 feet across.
I think a Fiat goes smoothly in there.
Maybe like a little smart car would fit. But we tried it. We spent an hour and a half doing that, but now we're here, and it was a nice warm-up for this podcast.
Yeah. And the sauna's warming up now. So
it's warming up now. So once we finish
everything's warming up.
Yep, once we finish this podcast, we're going to go sit in the sauna and maybe cold plunge a bit. But yeah, so you used to own a paddleboard studio called What's Up? Was it What's Up? Right?
Yeah. So it was Function of Fitness, and then once I moved into that space, like paddleboarding was like just being it wasn't even the thing here in Michigan yet. And I had a board, and everybody's like, "What is that?" Like I'm like, "It's up." They're like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Not much. What's up with you?" And they're like, "Oh, that's what's up." And I was like, "Oh man, that's the name of the business. Is that's what's up?" So yeah, that was fun.
It's a funny play on words there.
Yeah.
So then you evolved into, I guess the idea recently was you had that trailer, right, that you had your paddle boards in and stuff.
Yeah.
And you decided it'd be a good idea to then convert that into a mobile sauna, and that kind of launched your current business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I still have the paddleboard business. I just don't operate in the same fashion. It's just more event based, right? So, but I had 2 trailers, and one was just sitting there storing stuff in it. And I was like, man, I should do something. I should either sell that thing or I should turn it into something. I'm like, what can I use it for, right? And then kind of born out of necessity, because I went through an experience where it was like, I felt I needed to cold plunge and sauna.
Yeah, tell that story, because you shared that to me when we did the Belle Isle Fire and Ice thing.
That was wild.
Share that story, please.
So, So it was it was a very traumatic experience, but I don't know if it was from a trip to Jamaica or if it was being out in the woods, like here in Michigan, like on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And I was in the brush and stuff. I don't know where it came from. I think it was here. It ended up being like chiggers. I didn't know what it was at first, but these bugs literally bite onto you and they burrow into you, right? But then they hatch, right? Wherever you go. So the next thing I know, they were in my place. It was such a nightmare. And I'm fighting them and realize
you're like a healthy, fit guy. You're used to being on the move, and that probably was shitty to deal with. It was kind of
debilitating in a lot of ways, yeah, for sure. So it kind of slowed me down from working. I didn't want to go to the gym once I realized this was a real problem, right?
Right.
So after a few weeks and hiring multiple exterminators, I legitimately broke down. Damn. Went to my sister and I was crying. Was like, I need help. I need to figure. I can't beat this.
Yeah.
Right now. I need to do something. She's like, maybe you need to see a doctor. So she took me to the hospital. Wow. We're sitting in the waiting room, and it was actually fascinating. So there's they went to some sort of lockdown. But it was just a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Because there was a
they made you
shooting
lockdown?
at the splash pad.
Oh, at the hospital.
In Rochester.
I see.
But we were within a 15 miles. So Oakland County, it was was wild. And I was like,
Yeah.
But they didn't really lock anything. And I was outside on the phone. He's like, you need to go inside. We're locking this down. I was like, but he said it all casual. I was like, wait.
What's going on
so
here?
strange.
Yeah.
And then to find out it was farther away. But
yeah.
I walk inside and me and my sister stumble on the same website at the same time. And she's like, it says here cryotherapy. I'm like, wait, what website are you on? We confirm we're on the same website.
Wow.
And so cryotherapy is actually the most effective way to treat bugs that have like burrowed into your skin.
I don't even think people realize that.
No.
And you didn't either until the research, obviously.
Yeah, and so I'm like, which is so rare for this to happen in Michigan,
right?
And it doesn't happen that Michigan.
Yeah, because I've had ticks before, and they were a pain in the ass. But I can't imagine a bug burrowing inside of me.
Yeah,
that would
right. Tick is.
I'd feel
violated.
violated.
Then a tick, you get Lyme disease, right?
Right.
At least this one, like you can get like sepsis.
Yep.
Which could be a problem, but that would take a long time, I guess.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's just this really big annoying problem.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm like, we're out of here. And the nurse tried to stop me and be like, hey, can we help you? And I was like, no, like, I don't know. I got to go. She's like, well, what's the problem? I explained to her. She's like, I never heard anything of that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I need to go. So we left. We went to Tractor Supply. I bought a tub. Like, I'd had a couple tubs over the time, but I kind of, sell stuff and buy stuff and move. And so I'm like, I'm going to get one.
You're a nomad, bro.
Yeah.
You're a vagabond.
Like, I spent like 3.5 years, kind of living on the go, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of, minimize.
Pick up on some things, yeah.
So, but then I buy this tub. We buy 20 bags of ice. Wow. And I'm like, I'm going to sit in this thing as long as I can. So I strip down the clothes. I'm in the backyard.
Say a little prayer. Say, I don't want to do this anymore.
On this one,
yeah.
And I put on Rufus Du Sol Inner Bloom. Actually, it just came out naturally.
Yeah.
I just hit play and shuffle on my Spotify, and all of a sudden Inner Bloom came on. I hopped in, dude.
Because that's a long song too, right?
Yeah, it's like 11 and a half minutes.
Yeah,
or
long
10:40,
song.
something like that. Yeah, 10:37, I think. Yeah. And dude, like about a minute and a half in, dude, and it's just such a beautiful song. But I start tearing up. I'm like, I just need this to be over, right? And I just then after those cleansing tears, then all of a sudden I start finding this you get into that zone, just in that state of just tranquility. And after about 4 minutes in, dude, I can start to see them coming up on my skin. I was like,
I would have freaked out.
Dude, this is wild. This is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Like moths to a candle flame.
Yeah.
Like so the chiggers coming out of your.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was unreal. Yeah, it's they're trying to survive at that point, right? They're trying to get out of that cold. Because by the time it was all
your
said and
body
done,
was so cold that they're like, I'm not gonna occupy this host anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So I ended up being in there for 14 minutes and got out, and I felt like there's this something in my mind that was like, you're gonna be okay.
Wow.
And I had a quick bite of sushi. My sister came back with some sushi, and
what a way to celebrate.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And she's like, why though? And then she just had a lot of questions. I'm like, listen, I think the next thing, because then I'm reading after. I'm like, all right, so they can't survive in below freezing, and they can't survive in over 110.
Okay.
So I'm going to go sit in the sauna for an hour.
Damn. So you had him double. You double tapped him.
Both ways, whatever it is. I knocked him out, then I burned him out, So then it was I did that. I did an ice bath every day for 7 to 10 minutes, and then I would sit in the sauna every night for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was.
And that was the remedy, though. That was
cure.
Yeah,
it was unreal.
So was that kind of why you thought about doing this mobile sauna? Then you're like, if this cured me through this fucked up time, excuse my French, but this fucked up time, that is a fucked up time.
Yeah, for sure. It was so fucked up.
So that cured you from that. You're like, okay, if this works for me, imagine.
But there's so many other things,
right? Because it's not just that, right? It's not like every person listening to this podcast right now or that follows us on social media is like, I have chiggers, right?
Hopefully you never experienced that, right?
Or ticks or whatever. You don't have bugs living inside. Hopefully, knock on wood. Most people listen to this, but I'd love to hear you just go into some more benefits of starting with the cold plunges and the sauna, because I think it's kind of a buzz thing right now. It's a buzzy thing. People are realizing that saunas and cold plunges are really, really good for you. So what are some of the benefits?
Sauna, I think, or we'll go cold plunge first, right?
Start with cold plunge.
We'll cold to the hot. Yep. I think that's how we do it anyways, right?
Do it,
Yeah, so
you gotta
for the
freeze
cold,
first.
it's, I think up front, it is that mental piece. I think it is the number one fastest
That's what
thing.
Wim Hof says, right?
Yeah.
If you could sit in the cold, you could do anything.
What can you can endure anything. You know, if you can control your mind, you can relax your heart rate, you can keep that steady breath, because you'll given enough time and practice, you can start to generate heat while you're in that, right? Which, has a multitude of benefits. But then you're talking about reduced inflammation, increasing recovery, but which there is a kind of a fine line for how fit you are and how much you stress your body out, how much is appropriate.
You don't want to overdo it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you have a fair amount of like body fat you want to lose, I mean, it is one of the fastest ways to tap into that.
Because isn't it like
response.
the black fat or something? Like it gets a very specific kind of fat. That's what it is. Okay, I knew it was something. Yeah.
Yeah. So that visceral kind of fat. So
yeah.
Besides that,
on top of all that, it makes you high, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you just talked about a bunch of dopamine, right?
Yeah.
But this is like hard-earned dopamine.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's that pushback immediate.
Yep.
But then after like a minute, 2, 3 maybe, like what's they say like there's like you will feel it. If you do it a few days in a row, you'll feel that high. You do it one time, you'll feel it. But then you'll start to notice like it's not a high that's like drugs, like cocaine
you come down,
or whatever, ecstasy or anything like that.
You're doing,
it's not up and down, right? It's here. And then it's just like that soft settle, and then maybe you do something else to do it in the afternoon. Maybe a few hours later, it's a workout, a little run, something, your yoga, breath work that spikes that dopamine naturally,
Right, because we talked about in the last episode how, social media and, all of these little things are like quick hits of dopamine that are cheap and you don't have to work for it. And you said something really profound. You said that you said something about like the cheaper the dopamine, the more it costs you or something like that.
Yeah, right. The greater the cost,
Yeah.
And the greater the recovery a lot of times, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with cold plunging, you're not dealing with that up and down, just like you said. And you have to be intentional about it. And it's not easy at first, but like you said, it goes up and it plateaus and you do come down back to your baseline, but it's not like ecstasy or cocaine or a lot of these things where like it starts to wear off and you're like, oh, I'm depressed. Like the day after a Molly trip.
Yeah, there's no recovery from the recovery.
It's like you're recovering in the process of getting dopamine. It's like scratching both itches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. There's studies, obviously. We chatted about this before. Drug addicts have been treated with cold therapy.
Yep.
It could be as easy as you don't have to have a cold tub.
Sure.
A cold shower, which some people say is harder.
Yeah, it is harder.
Which I don't know. I think it's easier.
I think the thing that makes it colder with a shower is like if you're standing up in like your shower well or whatever, or your tub or whatever, like if it gets cold, you can kind of wince and walk back. Whereas like a plunge, like you're in.
You got to get all the way out. And then back in. No, you're not doing it. Most people don't. They do, but yeah, it's funny, man. I think that is the thing. It's like, and once you start to do the cold plunges long enough, it's in a lot of ways like has that the ability to make you so much more resilient in everyday life.
I think so.
And just like like stuff just doesn't bother you as much.
Sure. I can even speak from my own personal experience. Like I used to really struggle with just panic attacks and generalized anxiety disorder, and it's still something triggers you and it comes up. But with something like anxiety or even a bit of depression or all these mental health obstacles that I've overcome personally, like when you go into the cold, just like Wim Hof says, it teaches you to kind of sit with that darkness in you in a way. It teaches you to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. Yeah. And that has such a ripple effect into like just anxiety and some of the panic attacks, because if you can sit in a tub and basically give yourself hypothermia for 5 minutes, you could do damn near anything, man. Because you're subjecting yourself to just brutal pain.
Shit's gonna come up. Shit's like, why can't you? Like, why can't you stay longer?
Dude, I remember being in Costa Rica with this gal, Jamie and Lauren Lodani, who in Sara, and we were at a yoga retreat, and I'm just like this happy-go-lucky hippie guy, Mr. Positivity, whatever, Detroit Smile. And I went to this retreat, and I was like that, all happy-go-lucky. And this gal, Jamie, like, love her to this day, because I got on this cold plunge, and I came in there like, I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to last 5 minutes. Bro, I hopped out in, like, less than a minute. And everyone's like, oh, I thought you were, Mr. Positivity. I thought you were a tough guy. Like, you're strong, all this stuff. And I'm like, I got my ego just absolutely dismantled. So then I got out, and then I listened to Till I Collapse by Eminem. Got my mind right.
So
I went back in the plunge, bro. And I'm sitting there, and I make it past a minute. And this Jamie gal, like I said, bless her heart, she's up in my face like, you don't have to be Mr. Positivity anymore. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you can experience pain. You can experience hate. You can experience trauma.
Yeah.
She's like, you could do this. You need to push through that version of yourself. You're more than your smile. You're more than your smile. You're more than positivity. All this stuff. And I'm like, damn, bro. I got out of there and, like, I felt like a changed man.
Oh, my God.
I really did. And I think if I wouldn't have gone back in and acknowledged that, like, maybe you can't out positive your negatives, right? And I think that's
it's very true, yeah.
You have to sit with your negatives. And I think that this kind of spiraled into, like, okay, the more I can get, like we're talking about, more I can get comfortable in the uncomfortable in different aspects of my life, the more I can experience, like, profound joy and love, right? Because it's kind of like the yin and the yang, the ebb and the flow. Like, I can only experience the level of joy I want to experience to the level I've experienced, like, all of that shit, all of that darkness. I believe there's some truth
to that. Yeah. Do you think you were able to be a little more vulnerable from that after that experience? Like real, like in a real, like grit, kind of, like, I don't say grit, but, like, man, like in the truth sense.
Yes.
Because, like, it's not all smiles.
It's not.
Even working positively in a way through something.
Yep.
Like, it's not, hey, we're not just, we want to smile.
Yeah.
But I think that's the goal. But, like, is life always about smiling even?
Exactly, bro.
Like, not everything's great. Like, shit is supposed to be hard sometimes.
Yep.
Because if it wasn't hard, it usually isn't worth it.
Exactly,
bro. I mean, some stuff should be kind of easy.
Uh-huh.
You want love to be, in a way, a flowing kind of sensation. You don't want it to be hard.
Yep.
But, like, sometimes there's challenges to loving someone unconditionally if we have the ability to do that. And, and I think a lot of that is loving yourself unconditionally first, accepting our flaws, like, because I've seen a lot of your growth, and I've watched it, like from when we first met doing yoga and stuff, and it's amazing. It's prophetic,
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, and so, I think being honest with ourselves.
I think we have to.
Tough.
I think we have to, man. And I think about, like, Detroit Smile and Smiler and all the things I've done with positivity. And this is a positivity podcast. But you can't. I've learned you can't be happy. You can't be positive. Maybe you can. But you have to kind of be in touch with your dark side too. You have to be in touch with your pain. And I think, like, happiness and smiling and joy wouldn't mean as much to us if we haven't had profound suffering in our life,
Yeah. To know the spectrum.
Dude, right?
Be, like, grateful, like, hey, I know what that's like.
Exactly.
And then you have more empathy, too.
100%.
I want to feel it all. I'm not here for this. Everything's not dual, but it's like, I think it is, like, singular.
It is.
I think we're, like, all part of one and the same, but, like, I want the full experience.
Me too.
The fullest experience that a singular can have, right?
Yeah. Well, and like
then,
Ram Dass says, one of our favorite mentors and gurus that we look up to, he says you can either do things like it's a ag, or you could do things like it's a ah, right? So you can either do things like you're surfing, right? You're kind of riding the wave, or you could do things like you're drowning, right? And there's really two ways to look at every situation. So it's not like bad things are not going to happen to you if you're a positive person. It's just like, how can you view the bad things that are happening to you from a lens of, like, oh, we're all in this dance together, and sometimes
this is just part of the dance.
Sometimes shitty things happen to good people, and by shitty things happening to good people, you evolve from that, right? Like, I'm sure we could talk in great lengths about shitty things that have happened to us in our lives.
For sure.
And forever. And we won't spend time sharing that with everybody, but we've had our teeth kicked in, fair share, and I think it all comes back karmically. But, yeah, dude, we have to kind of be in a state of loving awareness and understand that it is all part of the journey.
Absolutely. We all, I've been really on this awareness, this trying to kind of like from the hierarchy in a way, you know, you're like, we all want to love and be loved.
Yeah.
And we all need something to look forward to. Because when it gets tough, like, oh, you know what? I still got that. You know, or I still feel this love. Or like, you know what? I still love this part of
like
life or
anchors
myself.
In a way that keep us grounded.
Yeah, we all, loving awareness, man. Always. Yeah.
Like, that's a good segue. We just talked about cold plunges into like loving awareness. I want to speak about hot exposure too. We dipped into hot exposure a bit. What are some benefits of heat exposure in saunas? And I've heard this from both ends of, I guess, both camps, because there's people that like steam rooms, and there's people that like dry saunas, and maybe you could touch on the benefits and pros and cons of both of it.
I mean, so I used to spend a fair amount of time in a steam shower. I like them. I think they're relaxing. I
used to work at Lifetime, so they have the steam rooms.
Yeah, and I had one at my place
too,
you know, and I was, I mean, it's cool, but like, I also looked at it like in public ones, it's kind of like a petri dish for germs. Is how I look at it. I don't know if I've ever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on how clean it is. You know.
Totally.
How much? What's the traffic on one of those? You know.
Right on.
So I mean, what I know from a dry sauna is when we're getting to that higher temperature level, you know, I mean, you're increasing your heart rate to like a zone 2 cardio, basically. I mean,
so does that trick your body into thinking you're working out? Because does it qualify?
I mean, it's stress. Yeah, totally. Say. I mean, So I tell people this: the 2 easiest things that you could do to improve your fitness is a 1 to 3 minute.
This down, everybody.
Is a 1 to 3 minute cold plunge.
1 to 3 minute cold plunge.
Yep, and at least 20 to 30 minutes in a sauna, like 3 to 5 times a week.
In the sauna.
Those the easiest things you could do as far as effort and energy, right? Now there's mental challenge to those things, but there's mental challenge to everything, right?
Waking up in the morning sometimes can be a mental challenge.
I'm seriously. We've all been, man, like I gotta go through that
again.
Night
of the soul.
Totally, absolutely. But it always changes. Totally. It never stays dark.
No.
You know that you're. It's always even when we make bad choices, I said this to this one dude in the sauna. The sauna, all right. The sauna has like some of the best conversations that happen.
We were just talking about that when we did the fire and ice thing, and we should run that back. People keep asking about it.
We have.
It brings a lot of conversations out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so.
Dude, Super Bowl Sunday, I got a boy. He's got some saunas.
Yeah,
we're gonna do a thing.
I'll be in Jackson, Wyoming.
Oh, you will. Good for you.
You were just there.
I was there. It was great.
We're so aligned.
Yeah, it was so good.
But you know what it reminds me of, dude? Like, you smoked your fair share of cigarettes. That's something I go back and forth with. smoking. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. You probably smoked.
I mean, at times when you're out, there was times for sure.
But when you're smoking a cigarette and you have a conversation with someone and you're like, wow, this is the best conversation ever. Like when I call my friends, sometimes like my old friends from high school, I'll smoke a cigarette because I think you get dopamine from cigarettes.
Yo, for sure. I do tobacco or nicotine toothpicks.
Oh wow. I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. You gotta tell my buddy Blake about that.
Because I don't want to. I don't want to smoke, but I want to get the and I also do a little bit of the nicotine gum sometimes.
Yeah.
So a very small amount.
Yeah.
I do that.
It's a neurohacker.
And a little bit of coffee. Yeah.
Who
increases
Huberman
blood
talks
flow.
about that. Nicotine, it increases blood flow. I think it does something for your testosterone. It might even help with estrogen. I don't know about those two. Those are both claims. Look those up. Don't cite. But
it does spike norepinephrine.
Yep.
And dopamine and serotonin. Yep. And you do you know Andy Wheeler, or is it Andy Wheeler? Ray Kurzweil? They wrote this one guy's what is the book? Stealing Fire. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And it's Flow Genome Project. Yep. It's about hacking flow. Like I've read almost every one of his books. Like I really appreciate the work and the research he's done.
Sure.
And there's this guy Csikszentmihalyi, and it is like the work, struggle, flow, recover, which is how I've kind of calculated it. It's like, you have to work and you have to hit a barrier to get to that entry of, then you find flow and then you kind of run out of the energy or the sustained, time in, and then you recover from it. But to hack flow, like they say marijuana can hack flow.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
The right amount, right?
Yeah.
Which creative minds.
Yeah.
So tobacco or nicotine.
It seems like even microdosing cannabis can be good. I feel like microdosing is such a buzzword nowadays, but With cannabis, for most people, I think like a smaller dosage of THC would be better for you because it's so strong nowadays. And I think the same thing can be said with nicotine. Remember when like the vapes were becoming big, like those box mods and all the high schoolers, and they still,
huge puffs of smoke outside.
bro, but still, I mean, with the breezes and all that
so
stuff.
bad, yeah.
But
that's again, we're getting back to cheap dopamine versus. That's why I'm like, okay, this toothpick is a lot less of a dose.
And you could sprinkle in a bit of it. And it is a neurotropic.
Yeah, exactly,
Because it's a stimulant. Sure. It's a central nervous system stimulant.
Yeah.
And like you said, it increases probably dopamine, serotonin.
Yeah. But it's so mild that you're getting and so I do that, and then I'll study a little bit. Then I'll have a sip of coffee. I try to do the coffee after I start the study. Because you get that you want to get the adrenaline after.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny, dude, because I used to, and I like getting high as much as the next guy, but Ram Dass has a really great talk about getting high versus getting free. And for me, I started to use drugs a lot less to get high because it's fun to get high, but I've always been bad at coming back down, right? So I recently, in the last couple years, took a more keen interest on like the space I was coming back to when I wasn't high than the space I was going to. Because truly, I feel like anyone could get high, like anyone can do drugs and get high.
That's the easy part.
But no one can clear, or not no one. A lot of people have a hard time clearing, I guess, the runway of the airplane, right?
Coming back down and landing.
Right, but if there's a bunch of snow on the ramp,
potholes
it's going to be a little bit harder.
It's going to be bumpy.
So that's where I think we get back to the neurotropics like saunas and cold plunges and maybe even microdosing nicotine. I'm more so excited about just trying to maintain a flow space now,
for sure,
as opposed to trying to get high, bro. Yeah. Because for me, it feels more fun to be in a flow space because that's just being high is just.
The best ones, like the best highs or the best altered states of consciousness don't have a real recovery time, right?
Exactly.
Maybe a little bit of fatigue and processing, but not like when you do a bunch of cocaine, you sleep for 2 days and you end up eating a bunch of shitty food, or
17 pizzas. We've all been there, or you're on it for too long. You start peeking through your windows, looking at the neighbor like they're staring because you're so paranoid. Maybe you have been there. Theo Von talks about it a lot.
Oh my gosh,
he makes some funny jokes about
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really the goal as we approach this. Because I don't want to speak too much about this because I speak about this on Instagram all the time, but we are kind of in the middle of a great awakening, a mass awakening, it feels like.
Steadily, yeah.
I do feel like we're steadily shifting to a space where, even with our government, we're looking at like, okay, what kind of food are we consuming? Why are we putting these chemicals in our body?
Yeah, like red dye number 4 or whatever. And it was banned from data from like the early 90s or something.
Yeah.
Like, wait. But why didn't we ban it then?
I know.
If we had the data, like...
Well, I've always thought this, Brandon. It's not like one guy wakes up and everyone listens to him, because if one guy wakes up, he's a maniac, right?
Yeah.
But if 100,000 people wake up, that's strength in numbers.
For sure.
If you get 10 million people to wake up, it's a movement, right?
I mean, look how many moms... I say mom, because it was a predominantly, mother movement that went to Kellogg's to fight against.
There's that one gal, I can't remember her name, but she's a part of that movement. She finds things wrong with food and stuff.
Oh, really? Yeah, I mean, there's a
but it was a mob movement that went.
I feel like it was. I want to give credit to the mom. Like they
Moms rock, by the way. My mom's probably gonna watch this. Mom, if you're listening, I love you.
Yeah, Mom, I love you too.
And all the moms out there.
Yeah, it's a hard job.
It is.
Being a mom is tough, especially a single mom.
Oh yeah, single mothers rock too, man.
But yeah, I mean that was a tough movement, but it took a lot. It took a lot of voices to make one thing happen.
Totally.
And so I can see that happening.
Yeah.
More and more. Especially I personally I like RFK Jr. I like what he talks about and says.
Yeah.
I know that there's a couple things he says that are controversial, but if somebody doesn't challenge some things a little bit, we never question them,
Right, that's like the Eminem quote. Shout out Eminem, he's from Detroit, but Eminem says something along the lines of, you got haters, good. That means you stood for something, or whatever he says. And I feel like that's how anyone in politics. I don't want to speak about politics too much, but
Yeah.
you can't really find a politician that you agree with everything they say.
No, I mean, that's
but at the same point, if it's a noble cause and they're fighting for the greater good, I think that's terrific.
I can get behind, even if it's something you generally don't like. Like
Exactly.
It's fine, you know? Yeah.
Exactly, and I think that's how we really grow as human beings in respecting other people's opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked about that a bit when I called you and you were going to come over and do the podcast. We just talked about how like food and even politics, like everything's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about how like if you're on one side of the spectrum, there's sometimes a distaste in general, hankering and anger towards the other side. And you see it in politics, but you also see it in diets, right?
Yeah, like diet culture. We
Talked about that.
Oh my God, yeah. CrossFitters and paleo and veganism and yoga and
right.
Everybody being in their camp, and that's you know, and it's until you try it all. Like, how do you know which ones? Because everybody's chemistry is different.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
and vegan might work for someone, where like someone might need a more animal-based diet, right?
Yeah.
And I was sharing with you personally, I did animal-based for 3 months. It was good, but I felt myself craving like nutrients. I felt myself craving, you know, more fruits and starchy vegetables and leafy greens and stuff. So then I decided, because I'm an extreme person, for the next 3 months I was going to try being vegetarian. And I'm vegetarian now. I'm at least trying it. And I found that when I was animal-based, though, I was like, these vegans are idiots.
Yeah.
And then when I become like a vegetarian, I'm like, wow, these animal-based people are nuts. But like... It's all love. Like I think both. I don't think either side is nuts, right? Now that I've
there's a little extreme on every side.
Sure, but I think any form of extremism is unhealthy, and I'm not saying like I did animal based. I think it's a great diet.
But sometimes you got to taste those extremities to like
you
know
do.
How far is too far,
right?
You know, to where I'm like, oh man, like my health markers are starting to drop.
Like I'm getting black circles under my eyes.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know,
I'm having a hard time sleeping.
I'm not getting enough.
I don't have any
nutrients.
strength anymore,
right.
or you know, I can't mentally focus because you know, I mean, we talked like a balanced diet might just be the key, right?
I know, and they say that's the key to life is balance, right? But isn't that ironic that we're all coming together and realizing that like, okay, maybe vegetarian's great and there's nothing wrong with it and it works for you if it works for everybody and you're focused on the environment and all that stuff. And I think that it's a great way to reduce fossil fuels and all that good stuff that people care about, you know, not kill animals, all that stuff. But at the same point, like maybe also animal-based is a bit too extreme. And if you're consuming only animals and you're eating freaking 15 pounds of meat a week, like that's also not good for the environment either.
But also, like, where are we getting these animals?
Right.
And how are they being raised?
Yep.
Like, I think there's, you know, could we have
into
more ethical, like, you know, ways of raising them?
Right.
For sure. Mm-hmm. You know, I think, I mean, after being vegan for 5 years and then reintroducing a little bit of fish 1st, and then I was like, all right, I'll do a little bit of egg, and then I was like, I waited, and it was like 8 years I had no meat.
Yeah.
And then I remember once I had it, I was like, well, I know what I'm going back to.
Totally.
And it was crazy because like the polarities of actual strength. And I was doing sprouting lentils and chickpeas and all sorts of stuff. And like it was,
it's a big one right now.
You know,
lentils.
For sure.
Shout out Mike Posner and Doug Evans.
Totally.
I mean,
those guys are great.
They rock. I mean, that's cool if they can.
And
rock diet.
that is an amazing nutrition diet. I think. Depending on what your lifestyle is,
right? It works for different people.
It can be everything's got its own challenges.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to loop it back in, all we're saying is that like you talked about a really fun diet where like maybe you're a vegetarian, whatever, Sunday through Thursday.
Oh yeah,
and
that
then Friday,
veg
Saturday,
thing.
and Sunday you eat meat. And I think like if more people shifted towards a diet like that, there would be less meat consumed because there's a lot of people on both ends of the spectrum. There's people that are vegetarians that think it's bad to be animal based, and there's people that are animal based that think it's bad to be vegetarian. Mm-hmm. I think we could just be in the middle, and I think really balance is one of the most important keys to life, and that goes beyond just diets. That goes into even politics a bit. I think people that lean moderately in the middle that agree with policies on both sides. You know, I think there's some silly politics on each side of the political spectrum, right?
For sure, yeah.
But I think what really divides us apart as humanity is when we just pick one side and that's it, and we're not open, right?
Yeah,
we put our little shield up and we're like, you're invalidated
because,
if you have a belief that's not with mine.
And I see that's like, in from an overviewing perspective as like an individual who if I can remove any of my perspective on any of the topics,
Yeah.
I can just look at, man, like, united we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's so much divisive politics designed to do that. And like, I truly, like, after a lot of practice of meditation and yoga and separating myself from society, and like spending months and months outside by myself, you come back and you're like, what is all this for? Like,
what's all the fuss really
we're
about?
competing with each other,
right?
Like, you want to be right. You're right. Great.
Yeah.
Like, are we willing to like die on certain hills? Like, I think just treating each other with some love and kindness and respect, and it's. I mean, to what did Baba Ji say to Ram Dass was love everyone and always tell the truth.
Serve everyone and remember God.
Yeah. Well, yeah, love, serve, remember.
Yeah.
But he also said, love everyone and always tell the truth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he found it hard to love everyone at first, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, if I tell them the truth, then I'm gonna be mean. It's not gonna be loving, Yeah. It's like, well, then you just drop the judgment, which we're all a little guilty of,
I think that's so true.
It's tough, but
well, I think really most decisions in this human experience either come from two camps, right? We either make decisions out of love or we make decisions out of fear. I really feel like a lot of what we do can be traced back to those two concepts, right?
Yeah.
And I think as we are all on this healing journey together and we're on this journey of life, and I'm not even convinced there's a destination at this point. I think we're all just here to enjoy the ride and see what happens, But I think the more we honor the love in ourselves, the more we can honor love in other people. And I think it's going to take a lot of lovers to get the fear out of the hearts of others, right? But can we love their fear just as much as we love love? And that's a challenge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love and honor the fact that being fear is being human. Having fear is being human, It's
exactly.
Yeah. We're all going to have something to. I mean, I don't know if I can trust anybody who says I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do
you know anybody who has no fears?
Dude, maybe like Joe Rogan.
You don't think he has any fears?
Maybe he's fearful of being canceled, maybe. But no, I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
I don't know what he'd be fearful
think he gives
of. That's
two
just
shits
one
about
person
being
that comes to mind because I think of just like someone that's just not afraid to speak anything.
Yeah, because I think he's just so above a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I think he's got some strong opinions about certain things.
Uh-huh.
But what's not bad to have strong opinions.
I don't think so either.
I mean, you're not fighting anybody over them.
I think that's something I've leaned into recently too. And to answer your question fully, I don't know if there's anyone that doesn't have a fear. I think there's a compass. I think God might be the only one that doesn't have a fear because he created this whole thing, or she created this.
So
whole
this
thing,
brings me back. So dude, like these sauna conversations though. So I was at the Schwitz one day.
Yeah.
And I'm there with like maybe like 3 or 4 of my friends, but there's like I don't know 15 of us in the sauna.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it came out, but like somebody said that it was so Scorpio of you, and I was like, I don't know somebody was talking about something that was so like irrational. It was like, like I live in Denver, but like I'm like, I just have this like chronic fear of sharks. And I was like, what? And then it came out, I'm like, well, what's your greatest fear? Like, and that's, and so everybody went around, dude, and it was just so good.
Wow.
Like, everybody, dude, it got vulnerable quick.
Well, that's how you can really get to know somebody, I feel like.
Oh,
like, what's your fear?
And you're all vulnerable. You're all in swimsuits, sweating your ass off. And like,
what a great place to be vulnerable, man.
Yeah. As you're shedding and purging,
Wow. I think that's a good place, man. I feel like we've been rattling for everyone for a while. I think that's a good place to call it. Man, I'm super grateful that you joined me here on this podcast. The first ever guest.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
We crushed it, as my late great friend
much.
Angelo said. We killed it. We really killed it.
We killed it.
Yeah. I was glad to have you here, man. And if anyone is interested in booking Brandon's mobile sauna, feel free to reach out to him, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
if you want to leave your email
it's onewith.io is the Instagram and the website. .io instead of .com is like input output.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why it's one with IO.
Yeah.
So one with your input and output.
Yeah. So you become you maximize from your input and your outputs, right? Your outputs are maximized from your inputs.
Wow. I thought it was just like a catchy little thing. The .io
Oh
sounded cool.
yeah, it's the actual web
Input,
address.
output. Wow.
Yeah, so you can book the sauna, cold plunge. I got the saying, it's like cold plunges make every event cooler.
Man.
Yeah, and
That's
the sauna
so
is where
epic.
hot people meet. So.
That's a good place to end, man. Shout out everyone for watching and listening to this podcast. Thanks again, Brandon, for being here. The light in me honors the light in all of you, and you as well, Mr. Sir. So thank you for being here. Namaste. See you next time, everybody.
Sweet, dude.
Rock and roll.
Bro, that was fun.
That was right.
That was good. How long was that?
Dude, let's see. 41 minutes.
Oh, nice, dude.
Let's make sure that
Okay.
lights probably gonna
didn't burn down,
bro. Holy shit. Do you want to sit and then eat? Do you have enough?
What time is it?
Do you have enough stage?